Today, we're going to dive into the story of one of the most notorious names in the mafia, Vito Rizzuto. Our goal is not to glorify or romanticize his actions, but rather to understand the social, political, and human consequences of his life and death. This video seeks to educate and reflect on the events that marked his career and the impact they had on society. Known as the Last Godfather, he played a central role in Canada's most powerful criminal organisation. But what was the true end of his story? The ascent of Vito Rizzuto to the pinnacle of power within the criminal underworld is a narrative steeped in intrigue, strategic acumen, and a complex interplay of familial loyalty and ruthless ambition. Born in 1946 in Cattolica Ercole, Sicily, Rizzuto's family emigrated to Montreal, Canada in 1954, a move that would set the stage for his future as a dominant figure in the global mafia landscape. The Rizzuto family was already entrenched in the Sicilian mafia, and their arrival in Montreal coincided with a burgeoning era of organised crime in the city, particularly within the Italian-Canadian community. Vito's father, Nicola Rizzuto, was a key player in the burgeoning mafia scene in Montreal, and it was under his tutelage that Vito began to learn the intricacies of the criminal world. However, Vito's rise was not merely a product of nepotism. He possessed a unique blend of charisma, intelligence, and a calculated approach to power that set him apart from his contemporaries. As a young man, he quickly earned a reputation for his ability to mediate disputes and forge alliances, skills that would prove vital as he ascended the ranks of the mafia. In the 1970s, Vito Rizzuto became increasingly involved in the family business, which was primarily focused on drug trafficking, extortion, and construction rackets. His involvement in the infamous 1981 murders of three rival capos in New York City, known as the Three Capos Murders, marked a significant turning point in his career. This bold and audacious act solidified his position within the Bonanno crime family, one of the five families of New York City, and demonstrated his willingness to engage in extreme violence to achieve his objectives. Rizzuto's ability to navigate the treacherous waters of the mafia was further evidenced by his strategic alliances with other criminal organizations, including Colombian drug cartels and Italian crime syndicates. His role in orchestrating international drug trafficking operations, particularly the importation of cocaine into North America, underscored his influence and reach. By the 1990s, Rizzuto had established himself as the de facto leader of the Montreal Mafia, a position that afforded him immense power and wealth. One of the key factors in Rizzuto's rise was his adeptness at maintaining a low profile, which allowed him to evade law enforcement scrutiny for many years. Unlike other flamboyant mobsters, he preferred to operate in the shadows, avoiding the limelight and the attention that came with it. This low-key approach, combined with his diplomatic skills, enabled him to consolidate power without drawing unnecessary attention from authorities. However, Rizzuto's ascent was not without its challenges. Internal power struggles, betrayals, and the constant threat of law enforcement investigations posed significant obstacles. Yet, he managed to navigate these challenges with a combination of cunning and ruthlessness, often eliminating rivals and dissent within his ranks. His ability to maintain control over his organization, even in the face of adversity, was a testament to his leadership and strategic prowess. The 1990s and early 2000s marked a zenith of Rizzuto's power as he expanded his influence beyond Montreal and into international markets. His network of contacts and associates spanned the globe, from Europe to South America, and his influence extended into legitimate businesses, including construction, real estate, and finance. This diversification of his operations not only increased his wealth, but also provided a veneer of legitimacy that helped shield his criminal activities from scrutiny. Despite his success, Rizzuto's reign was built on a foundation of violence, corruption, and exploitation. The communities he operated in were often plagued by fear and intimidation, as his organization exerted its influence through coercion and fear. The social and economic impact of his criminal empire was profound, leaving a lasting legacy of distrust and instability in the regions where he held sway. In conclusion, the rise of Vito Rizzuto to the top of the criminal underworld is a story of ambition, power, and the complex dynamics of organized crime. His ability to rise through the ranks and establish himself as a dominant figure in the global mafia landscape is a testament to his strategic acumen and leadership skills. However, his story is also a stark reminder of the destructive impact of organized crime on society, highlighting the need for vigilance and action to combat the influence of such organizations. As we reflect on his ascent, it is crucial to recognize the human cost of his actions and the enduring consequences of his criminal empire. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, Vito Rizzuto had firmly established himself as the undisputed leader of the Montreal Mafia, a position that marked the zenith of his power and influence. This era, often referred to as the Golden Age of the Rizzuto clan, was characterized by an unprecedented level of control over criminal enterprises in Canada and a significant expansion of his influence on the international stage. Rizzuto's rise to this pinnacle was not merely a result of brute force or intimidation, but rather a testament to his strategic vision, diplomatic skills, and ability to forge alliances across diverse criminal networks. During this period, Rizzuto's organization was deeply entrenched in various illicit activities, with drug trafficking being the most lucrative. His connections with Colombian drug cartels and Italian crime syndicates allowed him to dominate the cocaine trade in North America, making Montreal a key hub for the importation and distribution of narcotics. This dominance in the drug trade not only generated immense wealth for Rizzuto and his associates, but also solidified his reputation as a powerful and influential figure within the global underworld. Rizzuto's ability to maintain control over such a vast and complex criminal empire was due in large part to his adept management of relationships and his knack for strategic planning. He was known for his diplomatic approach, often resolving conflicts through negotiation rather than violence, which helped to stabilize his position and prevent internal power struggles. This approach also extended to his dealings with other criminal organizations, where he emphasized cooperation and mutual benefit, fostering a network of alliances that bolstered his power and reach. In addition to his dominance in the drug trade, Rizzuto's influence extended into legitimate businesses, including construction, real estate, and finance. Through a combination of intimidation, bribery, and strategic investments, he was able to exert control over these sectors, using them as fronts to launder money and further expand his empire. This diversification of his operations not only increased his wealth, but also provided a veneer of legitimacy that helped shield his criminal activities from scrutiny. The apogee of Rizzuto's power was also marked by his ability to maintain a low profile, avoiding the limelight and the attention that came with it. Unlike other flamboyant mobsters, he preferred to operate in the shadows, which allowed him to evade law enforcement scrutiny for many years. This low-key approach, combined with his diplomatic skills, enabled him to consolidate power without drawing unnecessary attention from authorities. However, Rizzuto's reign was not without its challenges. Internal power struggles, betrayals, and the constant threat of law enforcement investigations posed significant obstacles. Yet, he managed to navigate these challenges with a combination of cunning and ruthlessness, often eliminating rivals and dissent within his ranks. His ability to maintain control over his organization, even in the face of adversity, was a testament to his leadership and strategic prowess. The influence of Rizzuto's organization during this period was felt not only in Canada but also in international markets, particularly in Europe and South America. His network of contacts and associates spanned the globe, and his influence extended into various aspects of the criminal underworld, from money laundering to contract killings. This international reach further cemented his reputation as one of the most powerful and influential figures in organized crime. Despite the immense wealth and power he amassed, Rizzuto's reign was built on a foundation of violence, corruption, and exploitation. The communities he operated in were often plagued by fear and intimidation, as his organization exerted its influence through coercion and fear. The social and economic impact of his criminal empire was profound, leaving a lasting legacy of distrust and instability in the regions where he held sway. In conclusion, the apogee of Vito Rizzuto's power was a period marked by immense wealth, influence, and control over a vast criminal empire. His strategic vision, diplomatic skills, and ability to forge alliances were key factors in his success, allowing him to dominate the drug trade and extend his influence into legitimate businesses. However, his reign was also characterized by violence, corruption, and exploitation, leaving a lasting impact on the communities he operated in. As we reflect on this era, it is crucial to recognize the destructive consequences of his actions and the enduring legacy of his criminal empire. The beginning of the end for Vito Rizzuto's reign as the Teflon Don of the Montreal Mafia can be traced back to a series of events that unfolded in the mid-2000s. marking a turning point in his seemingly invincible criminal empire. After years of operating with relative impunity, Rizzuto's world began to unravel as law enforcement agencies intensified their efforts to dismantle his organization. The culmination of these efforts was his arrest in January 2004, a pivotal moment that signaled the start of his downfall. Rizzuto's arrest was the result of a long-term investigation by Canadian and American authorities who had been building a case against him for years. The charges stemmed from his involvement in the 1981 murders of 3 rival capos in New York City, a brazen act that had cemented his reputation as a ruthless and powerful figure within the mafia. The investigation, known as Operation Colossae, was a joint effort by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, utilizing sophisticated surveillance techniques and extensive wiretapping to gather evidence against Rizzuto and his associates. The arrest was a significant blow to Rizzuto's organization, as it not only removed him from the helm, but also exposed the inner workings of his criminal empire to public scrutiny. The ensuing trial was highly publicized, drawing attention to the extensive reach and influence of the mafia in Canada and abroad. Rizzuto's conviction and subsequent imprisonment in 2007 marked a turning point, as it created a power vacuum within the organization and set the stage for internal power struggles and external challenges. During his incarceration, Rizzuto's absence from the day-to-day operations of the mafia led to a period of instability and infighting among his lieutenants. The power vacuum created by his imprisonment allowed rival factions to emerge, each vying for control over the lucrative criminal enterprises that Rizzuto had once dominated. This internal strife weakened the organization and made it more vulnerable to law enforcement pressure and competition from other criminal groups. In addition to the internal challenges, Rizzuto's imprisonment also exposed his organization to increased scrutiny and pressure from law enforcement agencies. The success of Operation Colossae emboldened authorities to continue their efforts to dismantle the mafia's operations, leading to a series of high-profile arrests and seizures of assets. The combined effect of these efforts was a significant erosion of the mafia's power and influence in Montreal and beyond. The beginning of the end was further marked by a series of retaliatory attacks and assassinations targeting Rizzuto's associates and family members. These acts of violence, while intended to assert dominance and intimidate rivals, ultimately contributed to the chaos and instability within the organization. The escalating violence and lawlessness drew the attention of the public and media, putting additional pressure on authorities to take decisive action. Despite these challenges, Rizzuto's return to Montreal in 2012 after serving his sentence initially seemed to signal a potential resurgence of his power. However, the damage to his organization had already been done, and the landscape of the Montreal Mafia had changed significantly during his absence. The once tight-knit criminal network was now fragmented and weakened, struggling to maintain its former dominance in the face of internal and external pressures. In conclusion, the beginning of the end for Vito Rizzuto's reign was characterized by a combination of law enforcement pressure, internal power struggles, and escalating violence. His arrest and imprisonment marked a turning point, leading to a period of instability and decline for his organization. The challenges he faced during this period were compounded by the changing dynamics of the criminal underworld, ultimately setting the stage for the final chapter of his storied and tumultuous career. The true end of Vito Rizzuto's reign as the Teflon Don of the Montreal Mafia came not with a dramatic showdown or a climactic act of violence, but rather with a quiet and poignant reflection on the cyclical nature of power and the inevitable consequences of a life steeped in crime. After years of navigating the treacherous waters of the underworld, Rizzuto's story reached its denouement in a manner that was both anticlimactic and deeply symbolic of the broader forces that had been at play throughout his life. Following his release from prison in 2012, Rizzuto returned to Montreal with the hope of reclaiming his position at the helm of the mafia. However, the landscape of the criminal underworld had shifted significantly during his absence. The once powerful and cohesive organization he had led was now fragmented and weakened, plagued by internal power struggles and external pressures from law enforcement and rival criminal groups. Despite his efforts to reassert control, Rizzuto found himself presiding over a shadow of the empire he had once commanded. The years following his release were marked by a series of personal tragedies and setbacks that further eroded his influence and standing. The assassination of his son, Niccolo Rizzuto Jr., in 2009, and the subsequent murder of his father, Niccolo Rizzuto Sr., in 2010 were devastating blows that underscored the brutal and unforgiving nature of the life he had chosen. These losses not only took a heavy emotional toll, but also weakened his position within the organization, as the deaths of key family members left a void that was difficult to fill. In the years leading up to his death in December 2013, Rizzuto's health began to deteriorate, further complicating his efforts to maintain control over his crumbling empire. The once formidable leader was now a shadow of his former self, grappling with the physical and emotional toll of a lifetime of crime and violence. His declining health was a poignant reminder of the human cost of his actions, as the very empire he had built now seemed to be slipping through his fingers. The true end of Vito Rizzuto's story came on the 23rd of December 2013 when he passed away from natural causes at the age of 67. His death marked the end of an era for the Montreal Mafia, as the organization he had led for decades entered a period of decline and uncertainty. The legacy of his reign is a complex and multifaceted one, characterized by both the immense wealth and power he amassed and the devastating impact his criminal activities had on the communities he operated in. In the aftermath of his death, the Montreal Mafia struggled to regain its former prominence as internal divisions and law enforcement pressure continued to take their toll. The once powerful criminal network was now a shadow of its former self, a testament to the cyclical nature of power and the inevitable decline that follows a period of dominance. Rizzuto's death was not the end of the Mafia in Montreal, but it marked a significant turning point as the organization entered a new and uncertain chapter. The true end of Vito Rizzuto's story is a cautionary tale about the corrosive effects of organized crime and the human cost of a life lived in the shadows. His legacy is one of power, corruption, and violence, but also of the ultimate futility of seeking to build a lasting empire on a foundation of illegality and exploitation. As we reflect on his life and the impact of his actions, it is crucial to recognize the broader lessons his story offers about the nature of power, the consequences of crime, and the enduring struggle to build a more just and equitable society. The life and legacy of Vito Rizzuto, the once powerful leader of the Montreal Mafia, leave a complex and enduring impact on both the criminal underworld and the broader society. His reign, marked by a blend of strategic acumen, ruthlessness, and a penchant for operating in the shadows, had profound consequences that extended far beyond the immediate sphere of organized crime. As we reflect on the consequences of his actions and the broader implications of his life, it becomes clear that his story is not just a tale of power and corruption, but a cautionary narrative about the human cost of crime and the cyclical nature of violence and retribution. One of the most significant consequences of Rizzuto's reign was the destabilization of communities and the erosion of public trust in institutions. His organization exerted control through intimidation, violence, and corruption, leaving a lasting legacy of fear and distrust in the neighborhoods where it operated. The pervasive influence of the mafia in sectors such as construction, real estate, and finance not only undermined legitimate business practices, but also fostered a culture of lawlessness and impunity. This culture of corruption had a chilling effect on civic engagement and community development, as residents often felt powerless to challenge the status quo or seek justice. The economic impact of Rizzuto's criminal empire was also profound, as his operations siphoned off vast sums of money that could have been invested in legitimate businesses and public services. The money laundering and financial manipulation that was central to his organization's activities distorted markets and diverted resources away from productive uses. This illicit financial activity not only enriched Rizzuto and his associates, but also contributed to the broader problem of economic inequality, as the wealth generated from crime rarely benefited the communities from which it was extracted. The violence and intimidation that were hallmarks of Rizzuto's reign had a devastating impact on individuals and families, leaving a trail of victims in their wake. The assassinations, extortion, and other forms of coercion that characterized his leadership created an atmosphere of terror and uncertainty, with many people living in fear of retaliation if they dared to speak out or cooperate with authorities. The psychological toll of this environment was immense, as the constant threat of violence took a heavy emotional and mental toll on those who lived through it. In addition to the immediate consequences, Rizzuto's legacy also includes a broader reflection on the cyclical nature of crime and the challenges of breaking free from the grip of organized crime. His story is a testament to the difficulty of dismantling entrenched criminal networks and the resilience of the structures that support them. Despite law enforcement efforts to dismantle his organization, the underlying social and economic conditions that gave rise to the mafia in Montreal persist, leaving open the possibility of new criminal enterprises emerging to fill the void. The reflections on Rizzuto's life and legacy also highlight the importance of addressing the root causes of crime and the need for comprehensive strategies to combat organized crime. While law enforcement efforts are crucial, they must be complemented by initiatives that address poverty, inequality, and social exclusion, which are often the breeding grounds for criminal activity. Education, community engagement, and economic development are essential components of any strategy to prevent the rise of new criminal networks and to build resilient communities that can resist the lure of crime. We hope this video has provided a critical and educational insight into the life of Vito Rizzuto and the impact of his actions. If you have questions or want to know more, leave a comment below. If you like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and give it a like. Your participation is essential for us to continue producing educational and reflective content. Thanks for watching. Remember, history teaches us valuable lessons, but it's up to us to decide how to apply them in the present and future. Let's continue to reflect and educate each other about the consequences of such actions so that we can build a fairer and safer world.